The battle for the Dominion's pride had begun, and across Earth, thousands of the engineering deck shook as Valtesh forces hammered at the sealed doors. Day One worked frantically at the controls, trying to keep the ship's systems under human control. Every few seconds, another alert flashed on his screen as the Valtesh tried to override his commands. "They're cutting through the southern bulkhead," one of the rebels shouted. Sparks showered from the wall as Valtesh plasma torches ate through the metal. "How long?" Una asked, checking her rifle's charge. 3 minutes. Maybe 4. Una positioned fighters at each entry point. They had maybe 30 humans now, more having joined after Day One's broadcast. 30 humans with stolen weapons against a ship full of trained Valtesh warriors. The math wasn't good. "Day One, can you get us into the weapon systems?" Una asked. "Bridge has them locked out. I'd need direct access to the main computer core." "Where's that?" "Upper deck. Section 12. Might as well be on the moon." The southern bulkhead exploded inward. Valtesh guards poured through the gap, firing as they came. The engineering deck erupted into chaos. Day One dove behind a console as plasma bolts scorched the air above him. He came up firing, his shots wild but determined. A Valtesh guard fell, then another, but more kept coming. "Fall back to the secondary controls," Una ordered. The humans retreated deeper into engineering, using the massive machines as cover. They left bodies behind, both human and Valtesh. The air filled with smoke and the smell of burnt flesh. Then suddenly the Valtesh stopped advancing. Day One peered around his cover and saw the guards pulling back through the hole in the bulkhead. A voice boomed through the ship's speakers, speaking in the harsh Valtesh language. "Attention, human insurgents. This is Captain Jisoo. You have 10 minutes to surrender. After that, we will vent your section into space. You will die and this pointless rebellion will end." "Don't listen," Una said. "It's a bluff." "They need engineering intact. Is it though?" someone asked. "They could just write off the ship. They have hundreds more." Day One looked at the frightened faces around him. Most of these people weren't soldiers. They were engineers, technicians, maintenance workers. They had never wanted to fight. They just wanted to survive. But surviving as servants wasn't really living. His communicator vibrated. A message scrolled across the tiny screen. "Orbital defense down, resistance forces engaging Valtesh fleet need support." The attacks on Earth had succeeded. The communication centers were down, and now the real battle was beginning in orbit. "We're not surrendering," Day One said firmly. "But we're not staying here either. We need to take the bridge." "How?" Una asked. "There's 50 guards between us and the upper decks. Not if we use the maintenance shafts. They're too small for Valtesh, but we can fit." Day One pulled up a schematic. "These shafts run through the whole ship. We can bypass the guards and come up directly below the bridge. And then what? Fight our way through Captain Jisoo's personal guard? No. Then we open the bridge to space." Everyone stared at him. "The bridge has emergency suits for the crew," Day One continued. "But if we control life support, we can purge the air before they have time to suit up. The guards outside won't be affected, but everyone on the bridge will suffocate." "That's cold," someone said. "That's war," Una replied. "How many of us would Jisoo kill without a second thought? How many has he already killed?" She looked at Day One. "I'm in." "Who else?" 20 hands went up. The rest would stay behind to hold engineering as long as possible. Day One led the strike team into the maintenance shafts, crawling through narrow tunnels barely wide enough for a human body. Behind them, they heard the Valtesh assault on engineering resume. The defenders would buy them time with their lives. The journey through the shafts took 15 agonizing minutes. Day One's arms ached from dragging himself forward. Several times they had to stop and wait as Valtesh patrols passed below their grates. Finally, they reached the shaft directly beneath the bridge. Day One carefully opened the access panel and peered down. He could see the bridge below, full of Valtesh officers working at control stations. Captain Jisoo stood at the center, its 4 arms gesturing as it gave orders. Day One closed the panel and connected his toolkit to the life support controls. His fingers moved quickly across the interface. "Ready?" he whispered. The others nodded, gripping their weapons. "Do it," Una said. Day One purged the bridge's atmosphere. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Valtesh below began choking, clawing at their throats. Alarms blared as they scrambled for the emergency suits, but Day One had locked the suit lockers remotely. Captain Jisoo's yellow eyes looked up and saw the humans in the maintenance shaft. The captain's face twisted with rage and disbelief as it suffocated. 3 minutes later, everyone on the bridge was dead. The humans dropped down and sealed the bridge doors. Day-One immediately took the captain's station and began accessing ship systems. With bridge access, he could finally control everything. "Weapons online," he announced. "We have the ship." Cheers erupted from the strike team, but Day-One was already scanning the orbital situation. What he saw made his blood run cold. 30 Valtesh warships surrounded Earth, and they were firing on the planet. Cities burned. Resistance strongholds were being targeted from orbit. The uprising was happening, but humanity was losing. "Can we help them?" Yuna asked, looking over his shoulder. Day-One's hands moved across the controls. The Dominion's Pride was a battle cruiser, heavily armed and armored. If he used it right, "Hold on," he said, and fired the ship's engines. The Dominion's Pride lurched forward, accelerating toward the nearest Valtesh destroyer. Day-One charged the main cannons and fired at point-blank range. The destroyer's shields collapsed under the assault, and the ship broke apart in a brilliant explosion. "Target the next one," Yuna said, manning the weapons console. They worked together. 2 humans operating a ship designed for a crew of 200. It wasn't pretty, but it was effective. The Dominion's Pride tore through the Valtesh formation, firing on its own fleet. Confusion rippled through the enemy ships. They didn't understand what was happening. Why was one of their battle cruisers attacking them? Day-One opened a channel to the Valtesh fleet. "This is the Dominion's Pride now under human control. To all Valtesh forces, withdraw from Earth or be destroyed." A Valtesh commander's face appeared on screen, its features twisted in fury. "You are servants. You do not give us orders." "We're not servants anymore," Day-One said and cut the channel. He targeted the command ship and unleashed everything the battlecruiser had. Missiles, plasma cannons, railguns. The command ship's shields held for almost 10 seconds before collapsing. The ship listed to one side, venting atmosphere and debris, but the victory was short-lived. The other Valtesh ships recovered from their shock and turned their weapons on the Dominion's Pride. "Shields at 60%, Yuna reported as enemy fire hammered them. 50%. "We can't take much more." Day-One tried to evade, but he wasn't a trained pilot. He was an engineer pretending to be a warrior. The ship shuddered under repeated impacts. "Shields at 20%. Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. They were losing. Day-One had taken the ship, but he didn't have the crew to fight it properly. He couldn't operate weapons, shields, engines, and sensors all at once. Then his console lit up with new contacts. Ships were rising from Earth's surface. Dozens of them. Small fighters and modified cargo ships, armed with whatever weapons the Resistance could cobble together. They swarmed toward the Valtesh fleet like angry bees. More contacts appeared. Larger ships emerging from hiding spots in the asteroid belt and behind the moon. Admiral Hyun's voice came over the comm, strong and clear. "All Resistance forces, this is Admiral Hyun aboard the reclaimed destroyer Phoenix Rising. Engage at will. Today we take back our sky." The battle exploded into chaos. The Valtesh fleet, designed to fight organized military forces, struggled against the swarm tactics of the human fighters. They were everywhere and nowhere, striking from unexpected angles and retreating before the Valtesh could target them. Day-One coordinated with the other ships, directing fire and sharing targeting data. The Dominion's Pride became a rallying point, its heavy guns providing cover for the smaller craft. Hours passed in a blur of fire and death. Ships exploded on both sides. Debris filled the orbital space. Day-One's console showed casualty reports that made him sick, but he couldn't stop to grieve. Finally, as Earth's sun rose over the Pacific, the Valtesh fleet broke. The surviving ships activated their faster-than-light drives and fled, leaving behind burning wrecks and thousands of dead. Humanity had won. Against all odds, against an empire that had conquered the galaxy, Earth had won. Day-One slumped in the captain's chair, exhausted beyond words. Around him, the bridge crew cheered weakly. They had done it. They had actually done it. But as he looked at the casualty reports, at the cities burning on Earth's surface, at the wreckage filling orbit, Day-One knew this was only the beginning. The Valtesh Empire wouldn't accept this defeat. They would return with more ships, more soldiers, more fury. The rebellion had succeeded, but the war was far from over. Humanity had lit a fire that would either forge them into something stronger or burn them to nothing. Day 1 opened a channel to Earth. 2 weeks passed like a slow-burning fuse. Day 1 went through his daily routines, repairing systems and avoiding attention. But everything felt different now. Every wire he fixed, every panel he opened, he thought about how it could be sabotaged. Every guard he passed, he studied their patrol patterns. He wasn't alone. Other humans on the ship moved with new purpose. Nothing obvious, nothing the Valtesh would notice. But Day 1 could see it in their eyes. They were waiting. The Resistance had given him a small communicator, barely larger than a coin, that he kept hidden in his tool belt. It could receive messages but not send them. Too risky. The Valtesh monitors would detect any outgoing signals. On the 13th day, the communicator vibrated once. The signal. Tomorrow night, the uprising would begin. Day 1 was in the engine room when Yuna approached him the next evening. She carried a datapad and wore the expression of someone doing routine work. "System check," she said loudly enough for the nearby guard to hear. Then quieter, "Cargo Bay 7. After lights out. Bring your tools." She walked away before he could respond. Day 1 finished his shift and made his way to the human quarters. He ate his gray paste dinner, climbed into his bunk, and waited. Around him, other humans settled in for sleep. The lights dimmed. Guards walked past on their hourly patrol. When the ship's clock showed midnight, Day 1 slipped out of his bunk. He grabbed his tool belt and moved silently through the maintenance corridors. He had mapped every camera and sensor over the past 2 weeks. He knew exactly where to walk to avoid detection. Cargo Bay 7 was at the rear of the ship, usually used for storing spare parts. When Day 1 arrived, he found 15 other humans waiting in the shadows. Yuna was there, along with several engineers he recognized from the secret meeting. "Good," Yuna said when she saw him. "We're all here. Listen carefully because we only get one chance at this." She pulled out a small projector that showed a schematic of the ship. "In 4 hours, Resistance forces on Earth will attack 12 Valtesh communication centers. When they go down, the fleet will go into emergency protocol. That's when we move." "What's the target?" someone asked. "The armory." Yuna pointed to a section on the upper decks. "The Dominion's pride carries enough weapons to arm a small army. We're going to take them." "The armory has 20 guards," another human said. "We'll never get past them." "We don't have to." Yuna smiled. "Day 1, you have access to the environmental systems, right?" He nodded. "All maintenance engineers could access basic ship controls." "Good. At exactly 0400, you're going to trigger a coolant leak in the guard quarters. Nothing dangerous, just enough to force an evacuation. Half the guards will leave their posts to deal with it. The rest of us will create a distraction in the lower cargo bays. That leaves the armory with maybe 5 guards." "5 is still too many," Day 1 said. "Not if we're smart." Yuna pulled up another schematic. "The armory door uses biometric locks, Valtesh only, but the power supply runs through this junction." She pointed to a spot 3 levels below the armory. "Cut the power and the locks default to manual override. We can force the door." "And then what? We take weapons and start shooting?" someone asked. "They'll lock down the ship. We'll be trapped." "We're already trapped," Yuna said quietly. "But yes, once we have weapons, we take engineering. We take the bridge. We take the ship." The cargo bay fell silent. Taking the ship meant fighting. Fighting meant dying. Everyone in this room knew they probably wouldn't survive the night. "I know it sounds impossible," Yuna continued, "but this is happening all over Earth. Other cells are hitting other targets. Some will fail. Some will succeed. But if enough of us fight, if enough of us refuse to stay servants, we can change everything." Day 1 thought about Taiho's last words. The fire is coming. Now he understood. The fire wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from within, from humans who had been pushed too far. "I'm in," he said. One by one, the others agreed. They spent the next hour going over the plan in detail. Day 1 memorized his part. Trigger the coolant leak, cut the power to the armory, then get to engineering and lock down the ship's self-destruct protocol. If they failed to take the ship, they would at least deny it to the Valtesh. At 0300, they dispersed to their positions. Day 1 made his way to the environmental control station in the lower decks. His heart pounded so hard he thought the guards would hear it. But they ignored him, just another human doing maintenance work. He reached the control panel and pretended to run diagnostics while he waited for the signal. The minutes crawled past. His hands shook slightly as he worked, and he forced them steady. Maintenance engineers didn't shake. Maintenance engineers were calm, obedient, broken. But Day One wasn't broken anymore. At exactly 0400, his communicator vibrated. The attacks on Earth had begun. Time to move. He accessed the environmental systems and found the coolant controls. With a few keystrokes, he opened a valve in the guard quarters that released harmless but foul-smelling gas. Alarms immediately blared through that section of the ship. Day One didn't wait to see the results. He grabbed his tools and ran toward the power junction below the armory. Behind him, he heard Valtesh voices shouting in confusion. The plan was working. He reached the junction and pried open the panel. Inside, dozens of power cables ran like veins through the wall. He found the ones labeled for the armory security system and pulled out his wire cutters. His communicator vibrated twice. That was the signal from Una. The distraction in the cargo bays had started. Guards were being pulled from every section. Day One cut the cables. Somewhere 3 levels above, the armory locks went dark. He ran, not away from danger this time, but toward it. He took the maintenance stairs 2 at a time, his tool belt clanking against his leg. Other humans emerged from side corridors, all converging on the armory. When he arrived, he found Una and 6 others already forcing the manual release on the armory door. The metal groaned as they pulled, and slowly, impossibly, the door began to open. Inside, row after row of weapons gleamed in the emergency lighting. Valtesh rifles, plasma pistols, grenades, armor, everything they needed to fight. "Grab what you can carry," Una ordered. "We have maybe 2 minutes before they realize what's happening." Day One picked up a rifle. It was heavy, designed for the larger Valtesh frame, but he could manage it. He grabbed ammunition and a sidearm, then turned to leave. That's when the guard appeared. A Valtesh warrior stood at the end of the corridor, its 4 arms holding 2 rifles. Its yellow eyes widened in shock at seeing humans with weapons. For a moment, no one moved. 3 years of occupation hung in that moment. 3 years of bowing, scraping, serving. 3 years of swallowing rage and pretending to be defeated. Day One raised his rifle. He had never shot a Valtesh before. During the conquest, he had fought in space battles, firing missiles at distant ships. He had never looked one of them in the eye while pulling a trigger. The guard raised its weapons. Day One fired first. The plasma bolt caught the Valtesh in the chest, and it fell backward with a scream that echoed through the corridor. Alarms began blaring throughout the ship. "Go, go, go!" Una shouted. They ran through the corridors, armed now, dangerous now. Other humans joined them, emerging from hiding spots with weapons they had stolen. The ship's lights turned red, bathing everything in crimson. A group of Valtesh guards appeared ahead, blocking their path. Day One and the others opened fire. The corridor filled with plasma bolts and the screams of dying aliens. It was chaos, brutal and close. Nothing like the clean battles in space, but they were winning. Actually winning. They fought their way to engineering, leaving dead Valtesh behind them. When they reached the main control room, they found it already under siege. Other resistance fighters had gotten there first and were holding the door against attacking guards. Day One's group hit the guards from behind. Caught between 2 forces, the Valtesh broke and retreated. "Lock it down," Una shouted as they poured into engineering. Humans scrambled to the control panels, sealing the doors and activating emergency barriers. Outside, they could hear more guards gathering. It wouldn't be long before the Valtesh brought heavy weapons or just vented this section into space. But they had done it. They had taken engineering. The heart of the ship was theirs. Day One moved to the main console and pulled up the ship's status. His hands flew over the controls, muscle memory from his days in the Earth Defense Force returning. He locked out bridge access to critical systems. He rerouted power away from weapons. He did everything he could to cripple the ship. Then he saw the communications panel and had an idea. "Una," he called, "can you broadcast a signal?" "Ship-wide?" "Yes, why?" "Because every human on this ship needs to know what's happening. They need to know we're fighting back." Una worked the controls, and a moment later she nodded. "You're live." Day One took a breath, then spoke into the microphone. "This is Day One in engineering. To all humans on this ship, we have taken control of vital systems. We are armed. We are fighting. The Valtesh called us servants, but we are servants no more. Join us or hide. But know that tonight humanity chooses freedom over chains." He cut the connection. Around him, the other rebels stared. Some smiled. Some cried. All of them knew they had just crossed a line from which there was no return. The alarm woke Day One before dawn. Not a ship alarm, but the harsh buzzer that told all human workers to report for morning assembly. He climbed down from his bunk and joined the line of tired faces shuffling toward the main deck. Morning assembly was a Valtesh tradition. Every day the human workers stood in rows while Captain Jisoo reminded them of their place in the Empire. It usually lasted 10 minutes. Today felt different. Day One saw more guards than usual. They lined the walls with their weapons ready, watching the humans with cold yellow eyes. Something was wrong. Captain Jisoo entered the deck and all the humans immediately bowed their heads. The Valtesh captain was larger than most of its kind, with decorative scars cut into its gray skin to show its rank. It walked on 2 legs like a human, but there was nothing human about the way it moved. Every step was precise, calculated, predatory. "Servants," Jisoo's voice boomed through the deck. The Valtesh language came through their translator devices as harsh and commanding. "One of you has committed a crime against the Empire." Day One's stomach dropped. He glanced sideways and saw Yuna 3 rows ahead. She stood perfectly still, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. Yesterday, someone accessed restricted files in the ship's database. Jisoo walked slowly between the rows of humans. Someone tried to steal information about our fleet movements. The deck fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Day One forced himself to breathe normally. This wasn't about the meeting. This was something else. "Step forward and your punishment will be light," Jisoo continued. "Make me find you and I will make an example that your kind will never forget." No one moved. Day One knew no one would. Stepping forward meant death, whether the punishment was light or not. Jisoo stopped walking. "Very well. Bring him." 2 guards dragged a man onto the deck. Day One recognized him as Taiho, a quiet engineer who worked in the lower sections. Blood ran down Taiho's face and his left arm hung at an odd angle. They had already tortured him. "This servant thought he could deceive us," Jisoo said, grabbing Taiho by the hair and forcing him to his knees. He thought his human cleverness could outsmart Valtesh security. Taiho's eyes found Day One in the crowd. There was no fear in them, only defiance. It was a look Day One hadn't seen in years. A look from the old days before the conquest when humans still believed they could fight. "Let this be your lesson," Jisoo said. The captain drew a blade from its belt, a curved weapon that glowed with blue energy. What happened next took only seconds, but Day One would remember it for the rest of his life. Jisoo raised the blade high and Taiho, bloody and broken, smiled. Actually smiled. "They're coming," Taiho said in Korean, knowing the translators wouldn't register his words fast enough. "The fire is coming." The blade came down. Day One stood frozen as Taiho's body collapsed to the floor. Around him, other humans stared in horror, but no one made a sound. They had learned long ago that showing emotion meant sharing the punishment. "Clean this up," Jisoo ordered the guards, "and double security on all computer systems. If I find another thief, I will execute 10 humans instead of 1. The captain left and the assembly was dismissed. Day One walked back to the engine room in a daze. His hands shook as he picked up his tools. Taiho was dead. Taiho had been part of the resistance and now he was dead. The fire is coming. What did that mean? He worked through the morning, but his mind was far away. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Taiho's smile. That impossible, defiant smile in the face of death. What could make a man smile like that? At lunch, Yuna found him in the mess hall. She sat down across from him with her tray of gray paste that the Valtesh called food. "Tonight," she whispered. "Still happening. Maybe more important now. They killed Taiho," Day One said quietly. "I know. That's why we have to go." Yuna pushed her food around her plate. "He died protecting something. We need to find out what." The rest of the day crawled by. Day One fixed pipes, rewired panels, and avoided the guards' suspicious glares. Every Valtesh on the ship was on edge after the execution. They watched the humans more carefully, looking for any sign of rebellion. Finally, the second shift ended. The captain's banquet had begun in the upper decks, and most of the guards had been reassigned to protect the Valtesh officers. Day One made his way to Cargo Bay 3, taking a route through the maintenance tunnels that avoided the main corridors. When he arrived, he found 20 other humans already there, hiding among the supply containers. Yuna was there. So were several engineers he recognized, and standing in the center of the group, looking older and thinner than he remembered, was Hana. "Brother," she said softly, and Day One felt his eyes burn with tears he couldn't shed. "Not here. Not now. You're alive." he managed to say. So are you. Hana stepped forward and hugged him quickly before pulling back. There was no time for emotion. We don't have long. Guards will do a sweep in 30 minutes. She pulled out a small data device and projected a hologram into the air. It showed a map of Earth with hundreds of red dots scattered across the continents. These are the cells, Hana explained. Resistance groups that survived the occupation. For 3 years we've been scattered, disconnected, barely surviving. But something changed 2 months ago. She touched the device and the red dots began to connect with lines, forming a network. We found a way to communicate. The Valtesh monitoring systems can't detect our method because it uses old human technology they think is primitive. Hana's voice grew stronger. We've been coordinating, planning, preparing. Preparing for what? Someone asked. For war, Hana said simply. Real war. Not like the first time when we surrendered after 6 weeks. This time we fight until we win or until we're extinct. The cargo bay fell silent. War. The word sounded impossible. The Valtesh had thousands of ships. They controlled hundreds of worlds. How could humanity fight that? I know what you're thinking, Hana continued. We're outmatched, outgunned, we have no chance. She smiled, and it reminded Day One of Taiho's smile. That's what they think too. And that's our advantage. She changed the hologram to show a Valtesh warship schematic. I've been working in their research division for 3 years. I've studied their technology, their tactics, their psychology, and I've found their weaknesses. Hana pointed to several spots on the ship diagram. Their ships are powerful but fragile. Everything runs through a central network. Take out the network and the whole ship goes dark. Their weapons are devastating but slow to reload. Their shields can't handle sustained fire from multiple angles. And most importantly, their military doctrine is rigid. They follow the same patterns every time because it's worked for 300 years. So we hit them where they're weak, Yuna said. Exactly. But we need people on the inside. We need saboteurs on every ship in every facility. We need eyes and ears everywhere. Hana looked around the group. Taiho was gathering information about fleet movements. He died to protect it, but he succeeded. We know where the Valtesh are vulnerable. She pulled up another image. This one showed military installations across Earth. In 2 weeks we strike. Simultaneous attacks on communication arrays in 12 cities. We cut their ability to coordinate and then we hit their ships in orbit. They'll kill thousands in retaliation, someone said. They'll kill millions if we do nothing, Hana replied. The Valtesh are planning something called the Harvest. In 6 months, they're going to take half of Earth's population to their colony worlds as slave labor. Once we're scattered across the galaxy, there will be no resistance. No hope. This is our last chance. Daewon studied his sister's face. She had changed. The scientist who loved peace and discovery had become something harder, colder. The occupation had done that. It had turned them all into something different. What do you need from us? He asked. Everything, Hana said. I need you to sabotage this ship when the time comes. I need access to the Dominion's Pride systems. And I need you to be ready to fight. I'm a maintenance engineer, Daewon said. I haven't fought in 3 years. None of us have. But we're going to remember how. Hana's eyes met his. The Valtesh think we're broken. They think 3 years of servitude has destroyed our spirit. We're going to show them they're wrong. The meeting continued for another 10 minutes. Hana gave each person specific instructions, locations for dead drops, codes for secure communication. Then they scattered, returning to their quarters through different routes. Daewon walked back through the maintenance tunnels alone. His mind raced with everything he had heard. War, rebellion, hope, dangerous, impossible hope. He reached his bunk and lay down, staring at the ceiling again. But this time he wasn't thinking about New Soul burning. He was thinking about fire of a different kind. The fire Taiho had mentioned. The fire that was coming. The Valtesh had called them servants. They had beaten them, humiliated them, murdered them. They thought humanity was conquered. They were about to learn otherwise. The wrench slipped from Daewon's hands and clattered against the metal floor. He closed his eyes and took a slow breath before picking it up again. 3 years of working on Valtesh warships, and he still wasn't used to the weight of their tools. Everything the aliens made was heavier than it needed to be, as if they wanted to remind humans how weak they were. Around him, the engine room of the battlecruiser Dominion's Pride hummed with power. Blue lights ran along the walls like veins, pulsing with energy that could destroy entire cities. Daewon knew because he had seen it happen. He had watched from this very ship as the Valtesh burned new soul to teach humanity a lesson about resistance. That was 2 years ago. Now there was no resistance, only servants. Human, you work too slow, the voice came from above. Daewon looked up to see a Valtesh guard standing on the upper platform. The alien was tall, with gray skin that looked like stone and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. Its eyes glowed yellow in the dim light. I'm sorry, Daewon said, keeping his voice flat. The coupling is damaged. It needs replacement, not repair. Then replace it faster. Captain Jisoo wants the ship ready in 2 hours. Daewon nodded and went back to work. He had learned not to argue. Arguments led to punishment, and punishment often led to death. The Valtesh didn't value human lives. They had 7 billion replacements back on Earth. He pulled out the damaged part and reached for a new one from his tool bag. As he worked, his mind drifted to the world outside this ship. Somewhere down on Earth, in the underground tunnels beneath what used to be Seoul, his sister was still alive. At least he hoped she was. It had been 6 months since he last heard from Hana. Dr. Hana was smarter than him. She always had been. While Daewon had joined the Earth Defense Force, Hana had become a scientist. When the Valtesh came, Daewon's ships were destroyed in the first week. Hana's mind, however, was valuable. The aliens had put her to work in their research division, studying human biology and psychology. Daewon wondered if she hated it as much as he hated this. Probably more. Hana had always loved freedom. The coupling clicked into place, and the engine's hum changed pitch. Daewon ran a quick diagnostic on his handheld device. All systems normal. He gathered his tools and moved to the next repair station. There were always more repairs. The Valtesh ships were powerful, but they broke down constantly. Human engineers joked that the aliens had conquered the galaxy without learning basic maintenance. It was a small joke, whispered in dark corners where the guards couldn't hear. Jokes were all they had left. Daewon. A quiet voice spoke his name. He turned to see Yuna, another human worker, standing near the waste disposal unit. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and tired eyes. I need you to check something. He walked over, wondering what she really wanted. Yuna never asked for help with repairs. She was one of the best engineers on the ship. She pointed to a panel on the wall. The pressure valve is making noise. Can you hear it? Daewon listened. He heard nothing unusual. Then he understood. Yuna wanted to talk somewhere the sensors couldn't pick up their voices. The waste disposal units were the only places on the ship with enough background noise to hide conversations. I hear it, he said, kneeling down and opening the panel. Sounds like a leak. Yuna knelt beside him, her hands working on the exposed wires. To anyone watching, they were just 2 humans doing their jobs. Message from below, she whispered. Your sister is alive. She sent word. Relief flooded through Daewon's chest, so strong it almost hurt. When? Yesterday. She says things are moving. The cells are talking to each other now. The cells. That's what they called the resistance groups that still existed in Earth's underground. Daewon had thought they were finished after New Soul burned. Apparently he was wrong. What kind of moving, he asked, his hands steady on the tools even though his heart was racing. She didn't say details. Just that we need to be ready. Yuna pulled out a wire and reconnected it. There's a meeting tomorrow night, Cargo Bay 3 after the second shift. That's too dangerous. The guards. We'll be busy. There's a captain's banquet tomorrow. Most of the security will be at the upper decks. Yuna closed the panel and stood up. She said it's important. She said you need to be there. Before Daewon could respond, the sound of heavy boots echoed through the engine room. Both humans immediately stepped away from each other and went back to their assigned stations. A Valtesh officer walked past, its 4 eyes scanning the room for any sign of laziness or defiance. Daewon kept his head down and his hands moving. He had become very good at looking busy while thinking about other things. Right now, he was thinking about Hana and what moving might mean. The resistance had been quiet for so long that he had started to believe it was dead. Maybe he had been wrong. Maybe it had just been sleeping. The rest of his shift passed slowly. He repaired cooling systems, replaced burnt-out circuits, and cleaned corrosion from the ship's massive guns that had killed thousands of his people. Every day he maintained the weapons that kept humanity enslaved, and every day he hated himself a little more for it. But what choice did he have? The Valtesh Empire controlled everything. Earth was just one planet in their collection of conquered worlds. They had been expanding across the galaxy for 300 years, crushing anyone who stood in their way. Humanity had lasted exactly 43 days before surrendering. 43 days. That's all it took to break the human spirit, or so the Valtesh thought. When his shift finally ended, Day-Wan made his way to the human quarters. It was a cramped section of the ship where 50 workers slept in bunks stacked 3 high. The air smelled like sweat and recycled oxygen. No one talked much here. They were all too tired, too broken, too afraid. Day-Wan climbed into his bunk and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere on this ship, Yuna was probably doing the same thing. Somewhere on Earth, Hana was planning something dangerous. And somewhere in the galaxy, the Valtesh Empire continued to grow, adding more servants to its endless collection. He thought about the meeting tomorrow. It was stupid to go. It risked everything. But then again, what did he have to lose? This wasn't living. This was just existing, waiting for death to finally come and end the humiliation. Maybe Hana had found something worth fighting for again. Maybe the resistance wasn't as dead as everyone thought. Day-Wan closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but all he could see was new soul burning, the screams of 1,000,000 people echoing in his memory. The Valtesh called it a lesson. They wanted humanity to know what happened when servants forgot their place. Tomorrow night, Day-Wan would go to that meeting. He would hear what his sister had to say, and maybe, just maybe, he would start to remember what it felt like to be something other than a servant. The ship hummed around him, carrying him through. The darkness of space, a prison made of metal and power. But prisons could be broken. Chains could be shattered. He just had to remember how to fight. 3 weeks after the uprising, Earth prepared for retaliation. The Valtesh Empire would not let humanity's rebellion go unanswered. Everyone knew it. The only question was when they would come, and how many ships they would bring. Day-Wan stood on the bridge of the Dominion's Pride, now officially commissioned as the flagship of Earth's defense fleet. The title sounded grander than reality. Earth had 20 captured Valtesh ships, maybe 100 modified civilian craft, and thousands of fighters cobbled together from salvage. Against the full might of the Valtesh Empire, it was nothing. But it was all they had. Long-range sensors are picking up something, reported Soman, a young woman who had once been a computer technician and was now their best sensor operator. Multiple contacts, very large signatures. Day-Wan felt his stomach tighten. How many? Soman's face went pale. 300, maybe more. They're still coming out of faster than light. 300 warships, 10 times the force that had originally conquered Earth. The Valtesh weren't taking chances this time. Sound the alarm, Day-Wan ordered. Get every ship we have into position. Contact Admiral Hyun and General Nari. Tell them it's time. As the bridge erupted into activity, Day-Wan pulled up the tactical display. The Valtesh fleet was massive, organized into perfect military formations. At the center was a ship 3 times the size of any he had seen before, a dreadnought, the kind of ship the Valtesh used to crush entire civilizations. His communicator buzzed. Hana's face appeared on the screen. She was in a bunker deep underground, coordinating Earth's ground defenses. I see them, she said. Brother, that's too many. I know. You can't win this. No one could. I know that too. Day-Wan tried to smile. But we're going to try anyway. Hana's eyes glistened. I'm proud of you. Our parents would be proud too. Don't talk like it's goodbye. We've survived worse. No, we haven't. Not like this. Hana wiped her eyes. But you're right. We fight anyway. Because that's what humans do. The communication ended. Day-Wan looked around the bridge at the crew who had followed him through the impossible. Yuna at weapons, Somin at sensors, Junho, a pilot who had somehow learned to fly Valtesh fighters, at navigation. They were all so young, and they were all about to die. The Valtesh fleet moved into orbit, maintaining perfect formation. Then a single ship, larger than all the others, pushed forward, the Dreadnought. A communication came through. Daewon accepted it and found himself looking at a Valtesh he had never seen before. This one wore armor covered in battle scars and decorations. Its eyes burned with cold fury. "I am High Imperator Veltharan, Supreme Commander of the 7th Armada. You are the human who calls himself Daewon?" "I am. You have committed crimes against the Valtesh Empire. You have stolen our ships, killed our soldiers, and inspired rebellion among our servants. For this, your entire species will be exterminated." "We're not your servants anymore," Daewon replied. "We're free people defending our home. You are insects pretending to be warriors. We gave you mercy once. We will not make that mistake again. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick. Refuse, and I will ensure your species remembers pain for every remaining moment of its existence." Daewon thought about all the humans watching this broadcast. Everyone on Earth, in the fleet, in the resistance. They needed to hear strength, not fear. "High Imperator Veltharan, you come here with 300 ships thinking numbers will guarantee victory. But you're making the same mistake you made before. You think we're weak because we feel emotion. You think we're broken because you beat us once. You don't understand humanity at all. Then educate me before you die. We're not strong because we don't feel fear. We're strong because we fight despite it. We're not dangerous because we follow rules. We're dangerous because we'll break every rule to protect what we love. You call us insects, but insects are survivors. They adapt. They persist. They outlast everything that tries to destroy them." Daewon leaned forward. "You want to exterminate us? Come and try. But know this. We will make you pay for every human life with 10 of yours. We will turn this battle into a nightmare you'll remember forever. And when you finally kill the last of us, you'll find that we've planted seeds of rebellion on every world you control. Other species are watching. They're seeing servants fight back. You might destroy us, but we'll destroy your empire." Veltharan's face twisted with rage. "So be it. All ships open fire. Reduce this planet to ash." The communication cut off, and the Valtesh fleet advanced. "Here they come," Yuna said quietly. "All ships attack Formation Delta," Daewon ordered. "Make every shot count." The human fleet moved to intercept. 20 warships against 300. The math was suicide, but humanity had never been good at math. The fleets collided in a storm of fire. Daewon had thought the first battle was chaos. This was something beyond description. Plasma bolts filled space like rain. Ships exploded every few seconds. The void between Earth and Moon became a graveyard. "Target the Dreadnought," Daewon ordered. "All weapons, continuous fire." The Dominion's Pride and 5 other captured battlecruisers focused their guns on Veltharan's flagship. Their combined firepower hammered the Dreadnought's shields, but the massive ship barely seemed to notice. It returned fire, and one of the human battlecruisers simply ceased to exist, torn apart by weapons powerful enough to crack planets. "Shields failing," Yuna reported. "Port side hull breach. We're venting atmosphere on 3 decks." Around them, the human fleet was dying. Admiral Hyun's destroyer exploded under concentrated fire. Dozens of fighters vanished in brilliant flashes. The Valtesh were pushing forward, unstoppable. Then something unexpected happened. From Earth's surface, massive railguns opened fire. General Nari had spent 3 weeks building them in secret, using Valtesh technology and human desperation. The accelerated projectiles punched through shields that were designed to stop energy weapons. 3 Valtesh cruisers broke apart under the assault. "Good shot, General," Daewon muttered, but it wasn't enough. The Valtesh kept coming. For every ship humanity destroyed, they lost 2 of their own. "We need a miracle," Junho said from the navigation station. They got something close. Dr. Hana's voice came through every human communicator at once. "All ships, new orders. I'm transmitting a virus directly into your computers. It will spread to any Valtesh ship you have network contact with. It won't destroy them, but it will cause system failures, random shutdowns, weapons misfiring, shields dropping. Make physical contact with as many ships as you can. That means ramming, Soman said. That means sacrifice, Daewon corrected. All fighters, new mission. Get close to enemy ships, transmit the virus and break off. If you can't break off, ram them. He watched the tactical display as hundreds of human pilots acknowledged the order. They knew what it meant. Most of them wouldn't come back, but they did it anyway. Human fighters swarmed the Valtesh fleet like angry hornets, getting close enough to transmit Hana's virus before peeling away or crashing into their targets. The virus spread through the Valtesh network like wildfire. Suddenly, Valtesh ships started experiencing malfunctions. Weapons fired at their own fleet. Shields flickered and died. Ships collided with each other as their navigation systems failed. The perfect Valtesh formation dissolved into confusion. Now, Daewon ordered. All ships full assault. Hit them while they're disorganized. The surviving human ships charged forward, exploiting every malfunction. They targeted ships whose shields were down, finished off vessels that were dead in space, and used every dirty trick they knew. The battle turned from a massacre into a slugfest. Both sides took horrific casualties. The space around Earth filled with so much debris that it became hazardous to navigation. For 3 days, the battle raged without pause. Crews fought until they collapsed from exhaustion, then forced themselves to keep fighting. Ships that should have been abandoned limped back into the fight, held together by hope and determination. On the 3rd day, Daewon stared at his tactical display and realized something incredible. The Valtesh fleet was down to less than 100 ships. The human fleet had been reduced to scattered fighters and 3 barely functioning warships, including the Dominion's Pride. Both sides were exhausted, broken, and bleeding, but humanity was still fighting. High Imperator Veltheran appeared on screen again. The Valtesh commander's armor was scorched, and one of its arms hung useless. "You fight like demons," Veltheran said. "We have never encountered a species so willing to die." "We're not willing to die," Daewon replied. "We're willing to do whatever it takes to be free." "There's a difference." "Is there?" Veltheran looked tired. "I came here to destroy you, to make an example that would terrify the galaxy. But you have already accomplished that goal for your own species. Word of this battle will spread. Other conquered peoples will hear that servants fought the 7th Armada to a standstill. The Empire will never be the same. Good. I cannot win this battle, not without sacrificing my entire fleet, and I will not give you that satisfaction." Veltheran straightened, showing pride despite defeat. "7th Armada, withdraw. This world is not worth our extinction." The surviving Valtesh ships began to retreat, activating their faster-than-light drives and vanishing into the void. The battle was over. Humanity had won.